Chapter 51. Wow, it's been a while since I've stepped through this door, Robin remarked as he stood on the edge of the beach by the secret entrance to the castle. Remember how I used to sneak up and collect you from your room at night so we could look at the moon? Oh, I remember all right, Marion said with a shy smile, thinking back to those days. I also recently found out Lady Cluck knew all about these little adventures, and here we thought we were being so sneaky. She's a good egg, that one, Robin said with a smile. Even if she was a bit hard on me back in the day, I know it was only because she cared so much for you. There's no one more loyal than Cluck. I don't know how I would have managed any of this without her, Marion declared. Together they entered the dark passageway and headed down the familiar corridor. When they reached the stairs that led up to Marion's chambers, the familiar moaning sound rose to her ears. She stopped short, listening hard. There it is, she said. Do you hear? Robin nodded solemnly. It sounds like someone's in pain. I used to think it was a ghost, she confessed, feeling sheepish. She'd walked by this spot so many times and never once gone to investigate the source. She hoped her uncle would forgive her. Robin laid a paw on her arm. It's all right, he said softly. We're here now. They passed the stairs and headed farther into the castle, through a passageway she hadn't taken before. It was musty and filled with cobwebs. Lady Cluck hadn't cleaned out this section, and Marion stifled a sneeze. As they walked, the corridor began to slope downwards, deeper into the bowels of the castle. At one point, it began to spiral, round and round, until Marion started to feel a little dizzy. Her pretend tummy troubles realized, but she forced herself to press on, keeping an ear out for the occasional moans to ensure they were headed in the right direction. At one point, a spider crawled over her foot, and she had to swallow back a shriek. But Robin reached out, slipping his paw into her own, just as he had so many years earlier, and once again it made her feel so much better. Finally, they reached a set of steep stairs leading down into the darkness. Robin motioned for Marion to stop, then put a paw to his lips and pointed down at a flicker of light below. Someone was down there. A moment later, another moan rose from the depths, this one sounding much closer than the others. This must be it, Robin whispered. We need to be quiet. Marion nodded, and together they began to tiptoe down the steps, following the light. Soon they could make out voices below. They seemed to be arguing. Quit your belly-aching, Trigger, cried one, or I'll quit it for you. Marion glanced at Robin. It was the vulture guards. Oh, shut it, Nutsy, Trigger shot back. I have good reason to complain. I mean, we're stuck down here on babysitting duty when the tournament's going on. How is that fair? What if I wanted to enter? You're looking to get married? Teased Nutsy. To the sweet Marion? Bah! I just want that golden arrow. You know how much that thing is worth? You could retire from this lousy guard business. You actually think you could win, Trigger? I mean, you're good, but not Robin Hood good. You don't know that. I bet I could. In fact, I should go up there right now and demand my place. They heard a shuffling sound, someone getting up. Robin shot a look at Marion. She pressed her back against the wall. A moment later, they caught a flash of torchlight. The guard, Trigger, was on his way up. In a moment, they'd be in his sights, and they didn't have time to run all the way back upstairs. What are we going to do? Marion whispered. Just stand back, Robin said. I'll take him. I can help too. No. You wait for the other one. He's bound to come running once he hears his partner being attacked. Suddenly, the torch lit their faces. What in tarnation? Cried Trigger. Nutsy, get up here. We have intruders. He raised his crossbow, but Robin was too quick, knocking it from his wings. Then Robin kicked out, sending the vulture tumbling down the stairs. Now! He cried to Marion. They ran down the stairs into a small chamber below. Trigger was on the floor, screaming, Get him, Nutsy, get him! Nutsy raised his axe. Marion pulled her sword from her belt. Her heart beat fast. This was it, the moment Cluck had trained her for. She circled the vulture warily, waiting for him to make the first move. He was quicker than Cluck and smaller too, not as easy of a target. As he charged towards her, she leapt back and he came away with a scrap of fabric from her dress, but luckily none of her flesh. "Marion!" Robin cried, lunging towards them, but Trigger grabbed him from behind, yanking him back. He tried to wrestle away from the guard, but Trigger held strong, and Marion knew, at least for now, she was on her own. She danced around Nutsy, trying to remember all Cluck had taught her, but her brain felt like mush. This was a lot different than when they were practicing, and there would be no second round if she failed. One wrong move and it would be all over. No saving her uncle, no saving the kingdom, no saving her life. Her eyes steadied on Nutsy's face, waiting for him to give something away. He jabbed forwards again, and she managed to parry with her sword. But he only danced back, readying for another blow. He was quick, smart, nimble, and she wasn't seeing any mistakes. She began to get worried, and her arms were aching from the weight of the sword. Robin, meanwhile, was cornered by Trigger, who had retrieved his crossbow and was pointing it at the outlaw's face. "Please," the fox said, smiling at the vulture, "let's talk about this. Maybe we could work something out." It was then Marion got an idea. It was risky, of course, but it might be her only chance. She had to do something after all. Robin was running out of time. She held her paws above her head. "I surrender," she declared. "Please don't hurt me." "Marion, no!" Robin cried, looking horrified. "What are you doing?" But Nutsy grinned. "Now that's more like it," he snarled, taking a step towards her. "Lower your sword." She did, dropping it on the ground, and hit the stones with a loud, echoing clatter. The vulture steps towards her, pinning her to the wall, his axe at her chest. "Now I'm not going to hurt you," he said slowly. "Just stay still, and—" She shot out her foot, kicking him as hard as she could. "Ah!" he cried, flailing backwards, the axe falling from his wing. Marion dove towards it, scooped it from up in her paw, and placed it right at his throat. Nutsy cried out for Trigger, but Robin had already managed to overpower the other vulture. He dragged him to Marion and held both vultures tight as she tied them together with the rope they brought and then secured that to a chain on the wall. "You can't get away with this," Trigger cried. "Prince John will make you pay." "Actually," Marion said, smiling at Robin, "I think he's the one with the payment due."